Welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate, brought to you by BFG Financial Advisors. We're here to rethink what retirement really means to you, so you can graduate into your next chapter of life with purpose and with passion. I'm your host, Eric Brotman, and in this, our 7th season, we're bringing you interviews with guests who will share their money stories with us every other Thursday. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Linda Grizely. Linda is a personal finance expert and a financial wellness speaker who helps people build confidence and clarity with their money. She shows individuals and organizations how to turn financial overwhelm into empowerment by making money feel approachable, practical, and human. And today she's here to talk to us about graduating from guilt, how to finally feel good about spending in retirement, which is kind of a scary thing for a lot of us. So Linda, welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate.
Thanks, Eric. I'm so much looking forward to this conversation.
Well, it's fun to finally connect. You know, we met some 6 months ago or so, and have been talking about putting an episode together about this. And what I'm excited about, especially, is that there's a quiz on your website that I'm going to take in real time, so that you can help me make my money feel approachable, practical, and human. And we can see sort of how you work. But let's start by learning a little bit more about your history, how you got into this, and why financial wellness is so important to you.
Well, I could go back and tell a really long story, but we don't have that much time. So the short answer, Eric, is when I was doing financial planning and advising, and I was talking to clients, I would always hear these stories, like my brother's doing this, he's in this investment and I want the same thing. And then I would have to explain to the client why that wasn't a good idea for them. Your brother has a lot more money than you. You're not living within your means. You can't take that risk. But yet they still wanted that thing. And I started to discover that there was this whole mindset and psychology behind finance, right? And as I dove deeper into that, I started to think about money personalities and how people interact with money. And I learned, I read all the books. I read the Millionaire Next Door, and Brad Klontz has the book where he talks about the different scripts and how we learn them when we're growing up. And just really got super interested in all of this. And that's how I started to focus on financial wellness and bringing the person into their finances. So not just talking about the numbers, but understanding why they're doing the things they're doing and the choices that they're making with their money and how their personality comes into that. So bringing that person in helps them be more successful in their plans because we're working with them instead of against them.
So it's interesting because financial advisors, the CFP curriculum now includes a component on behavioral finance. And I think financial wellness and behavioral finance have a pretty strong confluence. And it's something financial advisors historically were not really trained to do, to your point, but something that clients need/want. And financial advisors, we have to be adept at that. Because we have to be able to talk about the why and the why decisions are being made, or why mistakes are being made, or how to avoid making the same mistake twice, or just the emotional baggage. I mean, money is a very personal thing. It's almost as intimate as medicine, and people are ashamed of it. They're guilty about it. They're afraid to talk about it. It's like taboo. Is there a chance we're going to break that cycle? Is that part of your mission, to break the taboo ness, if that's a word, of money in individual situations?
Absolutely. It's a big part of it because there is so much shame around it. And the idea is that people feel guilty and they feel like they should know more, they should have done more, they feel like they're behind. But what they don't realize is that everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but so many people are that way. And they feel like they're alone and it's just them, because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the idea that they're behind. And, I was having a conversation on a different podcast where we were talking about how people showcase money. They buy the fancy car, they buy the fancy house. And we're talking about the book, The Millionaire Next Door, how they uncovered that really the people that are more likely to be millionaires are not the ones who have those things. And, we just have this general conversation. And I realized that I had this epiphany that it's because we don't talk about money. But if you have the fancy car, it's like saying you have money without saying you have money. So it's your way to show people that you have money But in reality, you're probably worse off than the person who's driving the economy car,
Well, and in Texas, I believe they refer to that as big hat, no cattle, where the idea is it looks flashy and you're trying to impress somebody with the car or the house or the suit or whatever it is, but it means you might be spending more than you should. And, real wealth isn't something most people brag about. It really is.
Yeah.
People who are really, truly wealthy, sometimes are even ashamed of their own wealth, which is sort of an interesting thing to unpack as well. We've worked with people who are ashamed because they haven't saved enough, but we've also worked with people who are ashamed because they have so much more abundance than they want anyone to know, which is kind of an interesting thing, that the more successful you are, often the more humble you're likely to be and the less flashy you're likely to be. And there's a chicken and egg there, right? Like the person who's less likely to be flashy is more likely to be successful and therefore less likely to be flashy. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you have a personality quiz, and I have failed these before. I have no personality, but you have a personality quiz and an assessment that I guess helps you determine the starting point for some of the work that you do with folks, and it's free. It's available to anybody who wants to take it. Tell me more about that first before I subject myself to it on the air.
Of course. Okay. So first of all, nobody can fail. No matter what your result is, there's no wrong result. There's no wrong money personality. The idea is that by taking the quiz, and it's really not a quiz, it's an assessment, so to speak. By taking it, you uncover who you are and how you interact with money, what your personality is, which helps you understand why you do things and why some things might not work for you. And I want to go back really quick and just say the one thing that you said when you were talking about like people that had money and didn't have money, the common denominator was shame. You said there was shame in having money and shame in not having money. And that's the big thing. That's the part that we want to get rid of. We want to get rid of the lectures about money, and we want to get rid of the shame and guilt.
Well, there's a lot of folks out there preaching the thou shalt nots when it comes to money, or this is the only way to do it, or this is the best way to do it, or if you haven't hit this, you're an abundant failure, or if you don't drive this car, you clearly aren't successful. There's so much noise. Financial pornography, which is kind of a made up term, but it doesn't feel made up, is real. There's so much out there, and there's so much that you can digest, and most of it's bunk, that it's really hard to know when you're getting true financial wellness, either education or even edutainment, versus something that is really a sales pitch that's seeking to force people into decisions they don't want to make. Sort of that upselling. Absolutely. A really good server at a restaurant knows how to get you to order dessert, like they're going to upsell you on the craft cocktail. I think some of that happens in a very large way, but so talk to me about this assessment. We won't call it a quiz, despite the fact that I studied. Let's call it an assessment. Tell me more about it before I subject myself to it, because I'm going to do this. I've never seen it, and I'm going to do this on the air, and I'm going to be transparent about it. And I don't know if some of the questions are going to be terrifying to me or not, but we're going to try this and see what happens.
I guarantee you they're not going to be terrifying. I shouldn't say guarantee. I can't say that, right?
No, you can't say guarantee on a financial podcast. No, there's no guarantee.
I don't believe that they are going to be terrifying to you. Okay, so let's see. You're going to get one of 5 results, okay? Mm-hmm. So the results going from one end to the other, and again, one end's not bad and the other end's not bad, is security seeker, which is a person who likes everything planned out. The next level is saver, which is someone who likes to save but maybe isn't as super regimented as the security seeker. The avoider, who doesn't like to pay attention to their finances. The spender, and the spender could be someone who spends on themselves or on other people, is a giver. So spender's not a bad thing. And then the risk taker, that's a person who's like, go big or go home. I want to do all the things. And that's the short version of the 5 different money personalities.
And each of these results, there's pros and cons to all of them. So this isn't judgmental. It's just self-awareness.
Exactly. It's completely self-awareness. It's not judgmental. It's not meant to be a label. It's just meant to be like, hey, recognize that this is how you interact and who you are naturally with money. And then that will help you understand what to do next or why you're doing things that you're doing.
All right. Well, this is fun because hearing those 5 things, I actually don't know where I'm going to wind up. And I feel reasonably confident in my money, both knowledge and behavior, but now I have no idea how this is going to work out. So our incredible producer, Russ Reba, is behind the scenes. He's going to pull this up. Linda, you can walk me through the questions. I'm going to give you answers, and we're going to see how this works out in real time.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So the first thing you want to do is go to my website, which is lindagriz.com, LINDAGRIZ.com. And then you're going to find in the upper right-hand corner, take a money personality quiz.
All right. So folks can do this while, from home right now if you want to, or you can just watch what I go through and then decide if you want to do this. I'm super excited to learn my money personality. Let's get going.
All right, Eric. The first question, when it comes to money, your biggest priority is stability and a clear plan, enjoying life while you can, avoiding stress or conflict around it, watching it grow, or taking bold action on big ideas.
Oh, that's really good because so many of them apply to me. So like everyone else, I've got 2 or 3 answers that could be the answer. But because I'm only allowed to check one, I'm going to say taking bold action on big ideas. Right. And I figure I started a company. That's got to be the answer. Although I also like to watch it grow, and I also, I also absolutely like to enjoy it while I can. So that's a tough question. We're already one question in. I'm already having all kinds of not anxiety. There's no anxiety. I'm ready. All right, number 2.
Yeah. All right. And keep in mind that you can have multiple money personalities. You can be bipolar, you can be schizophrenic, whatever you want to call it.
I have financial multiple personality disorder. Is that's a thing now?
I don't
just
know
been
if it is or
diagnosed
not.
with something. Okay. All right.
Definitely
Well, let's
have
keep
not.
going.
I'm not a therapist. I'm just a money person. All right. What do you usually do with your paycheck? Do you automatically move part of it to savings? It goes in, bills go out, keep it simple. Invest in a business or take a calculated risk. Pay bills and follow a structured budget, or treat yourself or someone you love.
Automatically move part of it to savings. I teach people to pay themselves first, and I take that advice. So that is the first thing I do is put some away.
All right. Sounds good. Next question. If you found $200 you forgot you had, you would tuck it into a safe spot for later, put it toward your latest idea or project, add it to your emergency fund, spend it on something fun you've been eyeing, or let it sit until you decide what to do with it.
I would spend it on something fun. If I find $200 in a pair of pants or something, and we're going to dinner, that's just that's found money. Therefore, I will have fun with it.
Yep. All right. Your idea of the perfect weekend is staying in and scouting deals online, booking something fun, even if it's last minute, hanging out with friends, no plans, no pressure, diving into a new adventure or challenge, or knocking things off your to-do list and prepping for the week.
Oh, this does start to get personal, doesn't it? I'm going to book something fun, even if it's last minute.
Yeah. And remember, this is the perfect weekend, not what you do every weekend.
Right. No, I certainly don't do that every weekend. Fair enough.
All right. Next one, budgeting or focusing on cash flow, because really cash flow is also a form of budgeting. Watching that feels like it's empowering. You like knowing where everything goes. Boring or restrictive, you'd rather not think about it. Encouraging, you like to see your accounts grow. Frustrating, you can't seem to stay in the lines. Or unnecessary, you've got bigger things to focus on.
All right, this is funny because on our show, I refer to budgeting as the B word. We don't use the B word. And I do like to focus on cash flow, and I don't like to focus on budgeting. So the answer is going to be, when we talk about budgeting, it's going to be unnecessary. I'm not a fan of budgeting. I'm certainly a fan of cash flow, but I'm going with unnecessary. I got bigger fish to fry.
Okay. And keep in mind that's why I put or focusing on cash flow. Most people don't know when they're taking the quiz what is cash flow? We know, but do they?
Well, cash flow, I do track where everything is going, but I don't budget. So I'm going to go with unnecessary. I think that's the answer here.
All right. That was a trick question for you. All right.
What's your attitude? They're all trick questions.
What's your attitude toward financial risk? As far as risk goes, you avoid it at all costs. You embrace it. No risk, no reward. You'll take a risk if it feels worth it, you don't really think about it, or you run the numbers and decide carefully.
I'll take a risk if it feels worth it. I will certainly look at it. I'm not going to say I run the numbers on everything, but I will say that that if I feel like there's a reward that is commensurate with the risk, I'll typically take it.
Okay. All right. You've been invited on a trip. You say yes to the trip if it sounds fun and who needs a reason. You've already set aside money for an opportunity like this. It's off the beaten path and it sounds epic. Your friends are going and they've handled all the details. Or you've reviewed the full itinerary and know all the details.
It sounds fun. Who needs a reason? Let's just go.
All right. Next, which of these quotes speaks to you the most? A penny saved is a penny earned. Use it or lose it. Keep it simple. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Better safe than sorry.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
All right. When it comes to money conversations, you usually avoid them because they're too awkward or intense. Lead them. You've always got good ideas to share. You stick to the facts and the plan. Offer your favorite budgeting tip or savings hack. Talk about your latest treat or splurge.
All right. You used the B word again. We're not doing it anymore. No, I would say I would lead them. First of all, it's what I do for a living. And second of all, I do think I like to lead conversations about money and make it less taboo and more accessible.
Absolutely. All right. People would describe your money style, people looking at you, as spontaneous and fun, ambitious and unconventional, chill and easygoing, organized and disciplined, or frugal and intentional.
Again, there's several. I'm going to go with organized and disciplined because that I think speaks most to me. Although I'd like to think I'm also spontaneous and fun.
All right. So then it's going to ask you to enter.
Russ, put your name and email in there so that we can get one, I guess is the best way to do this.
Yeah. Or you can put mine, whatever. Put something in there to get the results. You're going to enter your first name, last name, and your email address, and it's going to pop up. It'll also email you, but it'll pop up with a response.
Oh, so good. All right.
Go to your
all right,
email.
Russ, this is you. No pressure. Uh-oh.
Right. So you came up as the
Is
spender.
that good? Uh-oh.
Remember, there's no wrong money personality. So it's not good or bad.
I got you.
Here's what it says.
I'm with you.
It says you're generous, joyful, and fully invested in the now. Whether it's buying cheese or spontaneous travel, you use money to create memories and express love. And here's where you can use my me money method to bring mindfulness, not restriction, to your habits. So see, you thought spender, when you heard that, you originally thought it's bad, but if you read the description, no, that's a great thing to be.
Well, and it's spot on, actually. Now that I see the definition, it's spot on. That's absolutely true. So talk about the me money method a little bit and sort of what you would do. I now have come to you. I said, Linda, I need you. I go through this. I've sent it in. You're now gonna start counseling me. What does that look like?
Right. So the first thing that we're going to do with me money is we're going to set aside an amount of money that is just for you to spend however you want. If you have a partner or a spouse, you're going to set aside the same amount of money for them and they're going to do the same thing if they're on board. The idea is that this part of money that's going to be your me money, it's money that's just for you. You're going to be able to spend it on anything that you want, whether it's buying, treating people to dinner, treating yourself to dinner, going on the trip, whatever it is that you want to do. And to figure that out, if you want to go through cash flow, obviously working in the financial planning, advising business, you understand cash flow. So really the ideal way is to go through your cash flow and figure out what that number is. But for people that aren't in that space, they could just pick a number and start with it and see how it goes. But if they track their personal savings for a couple of weeks and get a number and then add in anything, that's going to be like one-time things or special things or seasonal things. Like if you're a golfer, you'll want to add in that money that you're going to spend and kind of like escrow for it into savings over time so that you're always having that same exact number. monthly or per paycheck or however you want to do it. Hopefully that's making sense. Are you with me so far? Everything sounds good
Yeah,
so far, Eric?
so far it
Okay.
sounds like fun.
All right. So it's not a budget, but it is a budget, depending on how you
Oh,
look at it. But it's
all
not.
right.
The reason for it is because it gives you freedom. Okay. So
Okay.
if you think about in retirement, there are some people in retirement, if you look at the money personalities that I identify, if you're a security seeker in retirement, because this is what it's about, don't retire, graduate, right? And you're a
Absolutely.
security seeker, it can be really hard for you to spend money. It can be
Hmm.
really hard for you to go on a trip or to do the things that you want to do because you can have fear of running out of money. So by having me money set aside, it allows you a, a set item that you know that's structured that you're allowed to spend, and it gives you permission to spend the money without asking yourself. It's
I
there.
love
It's
that.
there for you. Now, if you're a spender like you,
Well,
okay,
before
go
you
ahead.
get onto a spender, Linda,
Yeah.
forgive me, but before you go onto a spender, let's talk a little bit about this because, we've seen a lot of people who have enough abundance that they are not going to run out of money, and yet there is still that psychological. I don't think it's guilt, but I do think it's fear that they can't take the trip or they can't treat themselves, and some of these folks, unfortunately, wind up not enjoying the last 10 or 20 years of their lives like they absolutely could. And it's all in their minds. It really is. It's not fact. It is behavioral and it's psychological. I think this is a really neat way to start to overcome that. So I love it. Let's talk about
Yeah.
spenders,
All right. Well,
since
and
I
let me
am
just
one,
elaborate.
apparently.
Now, let me just elaborate on the security seeker there for a minute too.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you're
Sure.
taking this amount of money and you're putting it aside and you're a security seeker and you're retired, so you're spending down your income, you're in the decumulation or whatever you want to call it phase. And you're setting aside this money, even if you're a security seeker and you're not spending it, you're setting it into a separate account and you're just, every month you're putting this amount into your separate account. That's your me money. And maybe you're still a security seeker and you're not actually spending it. But at some point something comes up and you're like, I wouldn't normally do that, but I already have the money set aside, and you're giving yourself permission to do that. Let's say that someone invites you on a trip, or,
Mm-hmm,
you get a
mm-hmm.
chance to go do something that you wouldn't normally do, some event, and you're like, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that. But you never would have justified affording it or doing it if you didn't already have it set aside. And when it's already set aside there, it just reframes your thinking on it. You're like, it's already there. It's already paid for. I can do this.
I love that. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, so spender. You're a person who likes to do things. You like to spend. Like you said, you can be a giver. Like you want to
Mm-hmm.
do that spontaneous trip or go on a trip if somebody asks you, things like that, right? So
Yes.
it's easy to go from spender to kind of like the avoider mentality where you're just spending to spend because you're like, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I want to do this. You're saying yes a lot. So having the money set aside in a separate account for you to make those choices from just helps you make better choices. So the example that I give is actually the me money origination story, like how it started, which
Mm.
is because I put my husband on this me money budget. I said I didn't call it me money then because I didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah, no, it's
But
allowance. When you give your husband
What's
money, it's called an allowance.
he said the same thing. He's like, "You're giving me an
Well,
allowance."
that's what it is.
So
Yes.
yeah, so keep in mind, I track everything because I'm a financial person and I'm just weird. So I already know how much money he spends. And he has no idea how much money he spends. Because I would say things and I'd say, like, that fishing trip, whatever. He'd like, oh, we just shared a cabin with the guys and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, you have a boat, you pay for the boat storage, you pay for gas, you pay for insurance, you pay for all these things that go into the fishing trip that you are not adding in. When you add it all together, it's not like you're putting out one big chunk for an all-inclusive vacation, where you're like, this is how much it cost because everything was included. You got all these little things that add up. Anyway, so I put him on this budget and I said, you have to live within this allowance. You have to live within the means of this money and you have to save up for the other things. And again, I already knew how much he was spending. And my point wasn't to restrict him. It was to make him more aware of what he was spending because it was clear that he wasn't aware of that. So we did
how
this
did
for a
that
couple.
go?
Well, yeah, we did it for a couple of months. And I said,
Uh-huh.
how is it going? He said, it's going fine. And I was like, okay, fine. What does that mean? And he
Uh-huh.
said, well, I'm just making better choices. And I was like, oh, tell me more. This is going even better than I thought it would. Better choices. Tell me about this. I just wanted you to be aware. And now you're telling me this. So he gave the example that he saw a golf shirt that he wanted and he had an upcoming golf trip. And so he thought about it and he thought, if I buy this golf shirt, I won't have this money to spend on the trip. So he didn't buy the golf shirt and he just saved the money for the trip. And I said, how do you feel about that? He said, fine. Of course, he just says fine. I said, okay. So do you feel bad that you don't have the shirt? And he said, no, I have a million other golf shirts. I don't need that golf shirt. And I'm like, do you want to go back and buy the golf shirt right now? And he's like, no. He's like, I didn't need the golf shirt. I said, but if you didn't have this allowance, this money set aside for you, would you have bought the golf shirt? He's like, yeah, I would have. And I would have gone on the trip. Right. So he would have done
Hmm.
both. He would have spent both. And so I said, do you feel like this is restrictive or that I'm controlling you? And he said, no, not at all. Like, he's never had to answer to me for what he's spending. We got married older. We're a blended marriage and we got married later, second marriage for both of us. So we've never answered to each other. So he's like, no, I'm just making better choices. So he's all good. And I'm like, okay. But flip back to when I asked him to do it. He said, are you going to do the same thing? And I said, sure, I will do the same thing. So I'm doing the same thing and I'm setting the money aside. Now, remember, I'm the one who is tracking all the money, doing all the things, and I'm a saver. And when I say I'm a saver, that doesn't mean I don't spend money on myself because I absolutely do. The difference is that like I'm a bargain hunter and I
Mm.
justify things based on like the price. So I'm someone who would never buy $100 face cream for myself, but I could buy 10 face creams for $10 and justify it 10 different times. So the idea behind it is that I am always feeling guilty if I spend money on myself, right? So now
Yeah.
I have this money and I'm setting it aside. And now I can do the things I want to do without like answering to myself. So I have
Okay.
removed the guilt from myself because the money is already there and I can spend it and I feel like I can buy the things that I wanted to buy. So now I might buy that $100 thing or I am buying that $100 thing rather than those $10 things. I'm just thinking about my money differently.
I love that you're doing this yourself because a lot of times, if a chef doesn't eat in their own restaurant, don't eat there, right? It's important to eat our own cooking. My financial plan and financial model is exactly the same format and the same design as every one that we have for clients. I go through the same process with multiple advisors in the same way everybody else does because I think it's really important that we have a shared experience and that it's all of our plans are of course unique to us, but the process is the same so that we know what it feels like. We need to get to the other three before we run out of time today. So let's talk about the other three. We talked about you and we talked about me. Let's talk about those other folks.
Yeah, okay. So, well, we did talk about the security seeker because we talked about that
We
person
did.
in retirement. Yeah. So we got that one. And we got the saver, which is me. And then we have the avoider. The avoider is someone who doesn't like to pay attention to their money. If what's coming in, what's going out, as long as everything is staying in flow and there's no late fees or bounce checks or anything like that going on, they're okay. And a lot of reasons a person is an avoider because they don't know where to start and everything seems so overwhelming. Like if they start doing something with their money, they're going to have to think about all these big things. And the me money method gives them a place to start where it's simple and it's not overwhelming. Another reason a person could be an avoider is, let's say that their parents always argued about money. And so money
Yeah.
is like bad to them, like it has these negative connotations around it. So they just try not to pay attention to it. Okay, then we have the spender, which is you or my husband, right? More on that line. And we talked about how that's not a bad thing because you can be a spender and spend on other people. It's
Mm-hmm.
really just about wanting to live your life, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, then there's the risk taker, which I thought maybe you might end up in the risk taker category, Eric, based on some of the questions that you were answering. So you, like I said, you might have multiple personalities depending on
Mm-hmm.
what day how you feel like that day that you're answering it. But the risk taker likes to take those big things. So let's say in retirement, you're a person who wants to take the safari to Africa. You want to go visit New Zealand or Australia. Like you want to do all these great things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this is where a person in retirement could get in trouble because they're spending too much money. As you know, looking at outliving your money and how you
Hmm.
spend down that mountain of money that you've built. If you're a person that wants to have all these experiences, you want to be sure that you're doing that in a framework so that you're not putting yourself at risk in running out of money in retirement.
So, do you find yourself mostly working with individuals or couples?
I work mostly with individuals, and that doesn't mean they're not part of a couple, but usually it's
Hmm.
one person, usually the woman that comes to me. I work mainly with women, but I'll work with anybody.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different dynamics in that. And sometimes they'll get with the me money method, they'll get the other person on board. Sometimes they won't, but it still works if it's just you. It works for single people as well.
Hmm.
Because it allows them to put some structure behind it, because when you're single, you don't answer into anybody. You're just
Right.
able to do whatever you feel like doing. So it gives you some structure and some framework around that too.
Yeah, I would just be curious if one spouse is a spender and one spouse is a risk taker, for example, or any combination, how that would potentially impact a dynamic, because you now have 20 different combinations that actually 25, because they could be the same. You have 25 different combinations that are possible. And the dynamics in those relationships, I think you have a book waiting to happen on that. I think we should definitely write a book about the 25 combinations. That could be a fun project. We're almost out of time. This has been fun, and no one's ever called me a spender before, I don't think so. And I'm taking it as a compliment, or as I guess, a neutral event, which is fine. Um, I got to ask you, what's next for you? What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a beach bum.
Oh, okay. Could you do that, or would you be bored after 3 weeks?
I would probably be bored after 3 weeks. I don't know though. I keep myself pretty busy. Um, I would find projects. I would keep myself busy. Uh, but you're right. I probably would be.
Yeah, I could see myself spending meaningful time at the beach. I would do that immediately. But I don't know. I couldn't retire fully. I just couldn't. I'd be busy like you, staying
Yeah.
active and involved and engaged. So we talked a little bit about the website. Let's tell people how they can get in touch with you if they're curious about this. The quiz is, of course, free, and folks can go check it out and now know what to do with some of that information. But if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, my website is the best way because it'll have my contact information is on there, my phone number, my email. There's all different kinds of resources that you can pick up for free on my resources page. There's a contact form if you want to fill that out. But yeah, and all my social media is there. So you can find me at my website, lindagriz.com. Find me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. I'm on all the socials. So
I love that it's Linda Grizz, because before we went on the air, I said I was just going to refer to you as the Grizz, and I was mostly teasing, and yet you've already done that. So from now on, you are the Grizz. Linda, thank you. Thank you for being here. This was as much fun as I knew it would be. It was good to see you. And I wish you continued success, and keep helping people change that narrative and reduce their own guilt, particularly when it comes to spending in retirement. That is a really heavy topic, and you're tackling it with panache. And I thank you for that.
thanks, sir. Thanks for having me on.
I'd love to thank everyone for listening and watching today. If you enjoy our show, please share it with friends and family so they can join you on your journey to financial freedom. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another engaging guest. And in the meantime, next Thursday, be sure to check out BFG Financial Advisors webinar series, Diary of a Financial Advisor, which you can find at bfguniversity.com. For now, this is your host, Eric Brotman, reminding you, don't retire, graduate.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC, Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Kestra IS or Kestra AS are not affiliated with Brotman Financial or any other entity discussed.